fits and starts, we learned that it was going to be a movie.
It was pretty crazy, the hype that came almost immediately from the first airing of Power Rangers.
We were filming the TV show and stuff, and we heard that we're going to be doing a big movie.
The rumor mill started almost as soon as the show was a hit.
We did this big public appearance at Universal, and it closed down the 101 freeway, and it closed down the park. And I think because of that, it generated so much buzz that obviously a higher studio wanted to come in, and I think that's when the talks really started coming into fruition for the movie.
We were told by Saban everything's going to be great, but then we knew Fox was involved, which is a big movie, like millions and millions of dollars in this movie.
Saban had to worry about the image of it. They wanted the show to continue. So there was this tug of war about the demographic. Is it going to be like Batman? Dark, higher demographic, much more violent. Or is it going to continue to be sort of like Mighty Mouse meets Superman? Innocent and fun.
Fox told me they were worried that the script wasn't getting to where they wanted to, so they hired me to come in and get the script in order, and they already had a start date, so I was a little bit nervous about having a start date but no script. So our names were out there from the papers, and it was a pretty big deal. And I'm doing my thing, and my AD, my first AD, Steve Love, who I love dearly, had a bullhorn, and he was communicating with all the extras in the background and everything. And the next day in the paper, Steve Love was the director of the film. The newspaper reporters got it wrong because he was the one yelling in the megaphone. They thought he was the director, and he got all the credit on my first movie. So that was pretty funny.
The series was a lot faster as far as like how we would shoot, because we didn't have a lot of time, and we would shoot in a week. There's like 3 or 4 episodes, and you just jam right through them. And so going in and doing the movie, things definitely took longer.
You'd be on one scene and you'd shoot 1 second.
Everything was different. The helmets were different, the suits.
In the series, it was spandex, and it's super light, and you can move around, no problem.
And also the pads, that was used to have the armor was incredibly heavy.
We'd have 4-hour costume fittings. Every single piece was molded to our bodies.
And I'm not quite sure what the suits ended up weighing, but I think around 18, 20 pounds. But the problem was more difficult than that was the seams in the legs.
You didn't have the freedom to go, do all this sort of thing. It was restrictive. And so they had to continually change things, especially for like any of the stunt guys, so they could do their thing.
They wanted to go with this kind of a vinyl, sort of, leather, patent leather type material. And it just didn't have any give in it.
I heard the kids had some problems with them, but we really tried to make them movable and have all the mobility they needed to do the fights and to be in the costumes. I'm sure they weren't comfortable, but we certainly tried to make them as comfortable as possible. I'm sure they were hot in those costumes as well, too.
I feel like the helmets they felt a bit more claustrophobic. But they had built-in fans, but they didn't always work. They would break down. We
had a few of the characters go down. It was one day that was really hot out, and I think he got a little bit of heat stroke. He was fine, though, after that.
Any film that you see, if it looks cool, it's probably very difficult to move around in.
We'll shoot some with showing the face of the Red Ranger, and then some with the mask on, some with the whole visor and everything. We'll do a few different versions like that, some with just the mouth showing. We'll do all these different versions.
I wanted to sort of have the audience be able to see our actors in those costumes, and if they were always in the visors, there was no reason to ever have the actors in the costumes because you never saw their faces. So I wanted to tell the audience that there were those of the real kids in those costumes when I wanted to.
So we were like this. I remember our helmets, and it was one of those things where you look dumb a long time ago. We used to say that, and we see it. I joke around. I'm doing my lines. I'm like, "Can you recognize me?" No, I can't recognize you. Good.
They had them where they'd rise up. They had them where they'd go from tinted to clear. So they tried so many different things. We shot various different ways.
So I shot that footage, and it's pretty good, but you can tell the guys are so stiff.
So we shot with the visors out,
and then I had so much time off in Australia that we went native. I bought a car, drove out to the outback, and of course it's different for the Rangers than for us. When we first got there, we were shooting nights. We shot a long time in the pit.
Things were slow on a movie, shooting like 1 page a day, few lines, and just doing nothing but sitting around in makeup.
So Paulie and I got there and were instantly off. which meant we'd go by the set and harass all the Rangers, late at night, go to the bars, go by the Rangers. Hey, you guys, you working? We're not. The first couple days on the set, it was like, hey, Paulie, how you doing? It's good to see you. By the end of the third week, they're like, don't go to sleep tonight. Don't go to sleep.
That was a close one. Uh-huh. You hungry? Always.
To do it, and he agreed. We were so lucky. He's a brilliant actor. He's a genius.
And you could see it, like as soon as he came on set, he's very friendly, total professional.
We put him through hell, I think, though, because the makeup that we wanted him to be in for this character that we created was full prosthetic makeup. It took him 3 hours, maybe 4 hours in the morning to put it all on.
The first time we did it, when we were testing it, it was 7 hours. But after that, it was regularly 4.5 hours every day. So when they were filming and would start at 7:30 in the morning, I had to start at 3 o'clock in the morning and sit there for 4.5 hours while this was put on. I realized it was a mental challenge. Where do you put your mind while that is happening? And of course, what I actually did was fall asleep once I'd got into it and relaxed in the process.
And then 2 or 3 hours to take it off.
I was drinking Guinness in those days, and I would have a straw, because the thing went inside my mouth, and I had the false teeth. I couldn't pull it off. It had to be taken off very carefully. Not to be reused, it was generally...
So we only had a limited time in a day to shoot with him before his time was up. And I think that as our schedule got deeper into the movie, his skin started getting irritated from all the glues and all the stuff.
All my skin flared up. Nobody had thought, and I certainly hadn't thought, that you can't put prosthetics on skin every single day for 12-hour days without it affecting you, So we had to take time off after that.
I think our schedule changed a little bit just to accommodate that, because he was getting really uncomfortable and his skin was getting rashed and red, and I really apologized to him for that. I didn't know how to make that better for him, but man, he really stepped up to that part. And we put him, not only was he in that big, heavy costume, I think his costume was the heaviest.
I couldn't sit down in the costume, so there was a sort of slanted stool that I could lean against.
We had him in some of these big, high-heel boots so that we could make him bigger and taller than everybody. And that, I remember him twisting his ankle once.
I fell down the steps and sprained my ankle, so I had to be taken to the hospital to get it checked out. I wasn't able to walk on it. But of course, I had the whole mask on. So it took an hour and a half to take it off. So I couldn't do that. I was able to get out of the costume, and then put a dressing gown on. They took me off in a car to the hospital. Now, it was a series of small clinics in this Sydney suburb. And you've been in a hospital, and when you go in, you suddenly see somebody who's got something terribly wrong with them. And you avert your eyes and think, oh, what's that? I don't want to look at that too closely. Well, that's what happened to me. They wheeled me in a wheelchair because I couldn't walk. And there I was with this great purple mask on with bones sticking out, silver teeth, purple eyes, purple tongue. And people were looking at me going, oh, what has that man done to himself? That is disgusting. And the first clinic we went in, the X-ray machine wasn't there, it was in another building. They had to push me up the high street to the next clinic, and people were averting their eyes all along the pavement because they didn't want to look at this gross person.
A lot of, shoots and reshoots, and we had, we shot with a completely different Dulcia.
We ended up starting off shooting a sequence that was very tame. It was a training sequence, and this was with the other Dulcia, Mariska Hargitay, who was the original Dulcia. But we started filming the very first week, and with a training sequence with Dulcia training the Power Rangers how to get their new powers. And there was no visual effects. It was all practical. We shot it at a Japanese Zen garden, so it looked real pretty and it looked like it was on another planet. But honestly, it wasn't a scene that I wanted to shoot. They weren't scenes that I wanted to shoot because there was no action, it was just a bunch of talking and learning and talking and learning. And the studio saw that week of dailies, and we stopped production. They weren't happy with it either. And I told them, I said, we really need a little bit more money to put the action back in that you guys love so much in the new script that you got. So we did. We stopped for a little while. We put some stuff back in the script, and ultimately the studio recast that part with Gabrielle Fitzpatrick, who I originally wanted for the part. When I went to Australia to read, they wanted somebody local. I read a bunch of women out there and fell in love with Gabrielle. She was perfect for the part, I thought. And the studio resisted that because I think they had somebody else in mind. And they did. They had Mariska Hargitay, which was fine. I loved her too. She was great. And like I said, she came out and we filmed for a week. And I think it wasn't Mariska's fault. She was great. I think it was just the scenes that we ultimately had to shoot because of the budget cuts. And they didn't like those scenes. And ultimately, I don't know if they blamed her or if they just decided that she wasn't right. But she went home. And when we started back up, we were able to bring Gabrielle in, who we wanted originally. And we broke up first unit and second unit. Second unit did, a lot of the fighting stuff. At night, I remember I would shoot all day at the construction site and then, tag team with second unit. As we were going home, they were coming in at night to do a whole night's work of stunts.
Going down there, I had a tough time because they wouldn't allow the stunt team to come.
Which we really needed because they knew all the moves, they knew the show. And yeah, we had a little bit of pushback from the government because they obviously want us to hire local people there, right?
So what I had to do was do some paperwork finagling and put the stunt team down as actors who played the Power Rangers. I said, well, the actors play, like Jason Frank plays Tommy Oliver, but he doesn't play the White Ranger. The White Ranger is played by this guy. And so each guy became an actor. So I brought them down as actors, which it didn't go over too well with the guys down there. But at the time, the reason I did that, not only because I wanted to pay back the real Power Ranger stunt team for making the show a hit, but also back then there was nobody was doing this kind of rat suits. Originally, the villain was going to create these rats that would come up and be giant rats running around on two legs. And I looked at the rat suits and I thought, can't we make a way for the guys to see? Because there's no vision, that their head's in the neck, they can't see, they can't move, they can't really do anything. I said, we'll try to do something with it. And I said, they can't move their legs apart. They can't move at all. So I said, will you please, just for me, just make a gusset in the crotch and make stretchy areas so that you can move. Just that. And they went, sure. So then we got down to Australia. Suits come out. We're ready to shoot. None of that has been done, right? So I shot that footage, and it's pretty good, but you can tell the guys are so stiff trying to move. And I would have to stand off screen with the rat suits. And when it was time for a guy to rush in, he had no idea. He knew the stunt he had to perform. He knew he was going to get hit. So I would just say, just hit him for real. And I would push the rat suit, and the guy would go running out there, and then wham, and then he would do his reaction. So it was ridiculous. But we did get to use the rat suits. Shuki and I shot 2 episodes of the TV series while we were in Australia. We did use the rat suits on that.
The movie fell behind schedule. And so when it fell behind schedule, we had to go back to shooting the TV show. So yeah, we decided, Polly and I decided that they were going to shoot it in Sydney. So there's like 5 or 6 episodes in Sydney. Paul Schreier was the first AD and I became the second AD. Tony Oliver came down, produced and directed. Shuki Levy came down, directed and wrote as well.
So it was extremely demanding on so many levels, because you have all the movie producers wanting something done, then you have all the TV producers wanting something done, and then this whole thing called voiceovers that needed to get done. It was extremely, I think all of us were stressed and pushed to our limits while we were in Australia for those 6 months, just trying to appease everybody.
We were shooting at this place called Old Sydney Town, north of Sydney. So over our Christmas break, that's what we were doing. We were shooting the TV show, using Australian talent, Australian crews, Australian makeup artists, Australian locations, and there's old Paulie and me running the crews. So that was probably the most frantic, I think it was 2.5, 3 weeks of our lives.
Group 1 will take the north side of town. Team 2 will...
Mission of speed, sir. What would you like Team 2 to do, sir? Sorry, sir.
1.
There I was, 20 years old, sitting dressed like a British soldier. Well, there's a guy dressed like a rat dangling from wires on an air cannon. You're going, ready, lock it up. With the sword, action. Oh, Kirisa. Oh, cut, take him to the hospital. Yeah, good times.
This film was made before CGI was big. It was very new, it was very expensive, it was very time-consuming, and it took a long time to actually make it look realistic and good. Nowadays, you can do it on your laptop in a couple hours. Back then, it was days and days of rendering. And anyway, so my approach was we didn't have the money. Our budget was when I started, our budget was $20 million. When we rewrote the script and redid our schedule, we needed $25 million. But we never got that from the studio. They said, you have 20 and that's it. So we ended up having to cut a bunch of stuff out that we really wanted to do. But so our approach to the visual effects was, I said, well, let's do everything. Let's do every kind of visual approach to accomplish what we need that we can of everything in the show, visual effects wise.
When we opened the feature film at Grauman's Chinese Theater, it was probably one of those surreal actor moments that you always dream about as a kid when you're dreaming about wanting to be an actor. At least I did.
It was life-changing. I mean, I think opening a movie at Grauman's Theater is like what every actor dreams of. It's kind of where you feel like, I've made it. Or not that you don't feel like you've made it, but it's such a sense of accomplishment that to know that all these amazing actors have been there at one point, and here you are, you're there.
Fans were lined up all over the street, and then they pull us up one by one in limousines, or 2 by 2 in limousines, and we get out and they introduce us.
Getting out in the limos and getting all dressed up, and it was really cool. It was an amazing experience. I mean, that's just, I still smile about it. I mean, they're never going to be able to take that away from me, no matter what happens in my life. And I always kind of hold on to that, which is cool.
And there's a row of paparazzis. I mean thousands of photographers, and they're screaming at you. They all know your name. I don't know how they know your name, but they're like, look this way, look this way. And I mean, it was just like, it was the coolest thing, because I remember at one point I looked over and my entire family was standing there. It was just cool.
I remember the premiere of the movie was just like any other movie. It was huge. Red carpet. I have to say that I probably have never seen so many kids of actors at that premiere. Tom Hanks kids, Demi Moore, all the famous kids were in that movie theater.
There were like all kinds of, famous stars, like at the time Jean-Claude Van Damme brought his kids to see us, and I remember in the movie I did the splits because that was kind of like an homage to him, so I went up and said, hey, that was for you, I'm glad you're here, it was cool. It was cool to meet Van Damme. Harold Ramis, was there, he brought his kids.
I think the weirdest thing for me, the movie premiere, I was walking outside the movie premiere, some kid in the bush, hey, White Ranger pajamas on, can I have an autograph? And I was thinking, yeah, and this guy comes out. I knew him from somewhere. You signed that for my kid. Kind of mafia, I was like, oh, I'll sign it for your kid. And I was thinking, who's that guy? And it was Michael Madsen. I remember him from like Reservoir Dogs and all. He just looked like, sign that for my kid or I'm gonna chop you up, But being there, seeing so many actors' kids was great.
I remember just going across and seeing the fans there behind the gate, and I'm like, oh, and I just go over there and I start signing, shaking hands. And next thing I know, some mom pulls me in to the crowd. And then I'm like, now I'm panicked. And I'm like, I'm gonna die. And then I can't remember who it was, but I think it was security or someone just kind of reached in and pulled me out. And I was like, disheveled, like, what happened? But yeah, so some of the moms were crazier than the kids, but it was pretty cool. It was neat to see.
Being at a movie premiere and seeing your face on a big screen is a lot different than seeing your face on a little screen. I mean, your head is blowing up so big. It's like, whoa.
You go, oh my, why did I want this? It's terrible.
The feeling was like, you know, when you record your voicemail message for the first time and then you hear it back and you're like, oh, did I sound like that? So for me, it was like that feeling of like, oh man, why did I do that? And then some of the stuff was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then really kind of hearing the fans reacting to it, you know, or laughing at the I'm a frog thing. And it was like, oh, that's cool, all right. It's cool, it was really cool.
I was very pleased with it. In a way I hadn't expected to be. I thought it was just a kid's film that wasn't going to amount to much. How wrong was I? Look, here we are, 30 years later, still talking about it, and people still copying it.
But I remember going to that movie premiere thinking, you know, here we are from a TV show, and then going to the movie premiere. Everything was big and, you know, the red carpet, and I remember being there before, putting our hands in cement.
Oh yeah, because we did our hands and feet in the cement. Yeah, we did the whole little ceremony at and that was amazing.
The fact that we got to go and we actually got to put our hands and our feet in cement at Grauman's Chinese Theater is an experience that a lot of actors don't get. So the fact that we got to do that was pretty fantastic.
The cool thing they did with that was they actually took, instead of our hands and feet actually being there in the Grauman's Theater, they actually took those cement blocks and donated them to some children's hospitals around the country. So our hands and feet are around some children's hospitals all around the country, which was kind of cool. I like that they did that.
When I look back at the pictures of that day, I just see the huge smiles on all of our faces, and it really was a powerful experience for me as an actor, and it's a day that I'll never forget on many levels, so I'm very grateful for it.